Hi you guys, welcome back. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and in this Halloween spooktacular episode, I want to tell you guys all about a story that has caught my attention. And that is a story of the Hexham heads. So stay tuned. The Hexham heads were a couple of rough, weathered-looking heads that were unearthed by Colin, who's 11 years old, and his younger brother Leslie, who is 8 years old, in Hexham, England. In 1971, these boys were in the garden, just weeding the garden, when they had unearthed these strange-looking heads. One of them seems to be a masculine figure, while the other looks like it could be a feminine, witch-like hag figure. People believe that due to the pointy nose on this second figure. But when the boys found these two heads, they decided to bring them inside because they were intrigued by them, of course, as any kid would be by such a find in their own backyard. Once these strange heads had entered the Robson home, strange things began to happen. Now, the family noticed, of course, that the TV was acting strangely ever since the heads had come in. And the family even noticed that the heads began to move themselves. So when they would go to bed at night, they would notice the head is facing in one direction. And when the family awoke in the next day, the heads would be facing an entirely different direction. Other strange things just seemed to happen, such as the sister. The sister's bed was one day strangely just covered in shattered glass. And the younger brother also had experienced something unexplainably pulling his hair in the middle of the night. A few days after these heads had been discovered, Ellen Dodd, who lived next door, was sitting up late with her daughter, who was experiencing a toothache. And while they were both sitting there up late at night, all of a sudden, a half-man, half-beast type creature entered the room. And upon its entering, of course, both women began screaming for their lives. And so the man of the house came running into the room, but by the time he had gotten there, it was too late. They could only hear what sounded like the pads of the feet, the two hind feet, running down the stairs. They later found that the front door was left wide open, and it was just believed that whatever it was that they thought was this half-man, half-beast creature must have just escaped into the night. Not long after that incident, there was a doctor by the name of Anne Ross who took possession of the heads. Now, Anne was actually someone who was studying similar heads and studied the Celtic folklore and was very versed in these things. And so she had many similar head carvings, and this made her certain that these were Celtic heads. Now, while these heads were within her possession, she ended up seeing a half-man, half-beast, similar to the one that Ellen Dodd and her daughter had described. So in the monster book, it actually has a description of what Anne Ross says that this half-man, half-beast looked like. In the monster book, it says here that Dr. Ross said it was about 6 feet high, slightly stooping, and it was black against the white door, and it was half animal, half man. The upper part, I would have said, was a wolf, and the lower part was human, and I would have again said that it was covered with a kind of black, very dark fur. Dr. Ross's family was actually tormented by this half-man, half-beast on many occasions following this night. And not only that, they also claimed that there was also some type of just evil presence within the home. And so Dr. Ann Ross did the only thing that she thought would be right, and that was to get rid of the stone heads. So according to the monster book again, the heads just seemingly disappeared. For a while, they were actually on display at the British Museum, later falling into the hands of a man named Don Robbins, the author of a book titled Circles of Silence, on the subject of ancient sacred sites. Robbins, apparently concerned by the air of negativity that descended upon him when he came into possession of the heads, passed them on to a dowser by the name of Frank Hyde. He decided to try and lessen the malevolent powers of the stones by coating them in a mesh made out of copper, which he believed would prevent any supernatural phenomena from being released. Hyde, however, had no wish to hold on to the heads for too long, and as a result, they made their way around more than a few researchers of ancient anomalies. It's most revealing that no one kept these heads for too long. Today, the location and ownership of the Hexham heads is a mystery. Now, interestingly, the monster book also points out an article that was in the Hexham Current, the newspaper, on December 10th of 1904. And that article had the heading, Wolf at Large in Allendale. And here is what that article said. It says, local farmers from the village of Allendale, very near to Hexham, had reported the loss of their livestock, so serious that many sheep were being stabled at night to protect them. A shepherd found 2 of his flock slaughtered, one with its entrails hanging out, and all that remained of the other was his head and horns. Many of the sheep had been bitten about the neck and the legs, common with an attack by a wolf. The newspaper article continued, hysteria soon set in. During the night, lanterns were kept burning to scare away the wolf, and women and children were ordered to keep to the busy roads and to be home before dusk. The Hexham Wolf Committee was soon set up to organize, and search parties and hunts were to bring down the beast using specialized hunting dogs, the Hayden Hounds. But even they could not find the wolf. The Wolf Committee took the next step and hired Mr. W. Briddick, a trained tracker. But he was also unsuccessful, despite searching the woods. So on January 7th of 1905, there was a development in the story in the Hexham Current. And that one reported that the body of a wolf had been found dead on a railway track in Cumwinton, Cumbria, which was approximately 30 miles from where a majority of the attacks had been reported. It was the newspaper's firm opinion that this was not the same creature, but another one. And so basically the beast of the Hexham werewolf or the Allendale werewolf is still unknown. My theory on these strange stories of the Hexham heads is that the heads were simply a buried curse of some kind. I think that Dr. Ross was on the right track. She believed that the heads were at least 2,000 years old and of Celtic origin. Now, that time frame and that part of the world definitely did participate in a lot of magic, spellcasting, and curses. Now, as a person who studies the occult myself, I'm well aware that there are many curses that you would actually complete by burying an object in the ground. So I find it interesting that Colin and Leslie Robes found this. What was their name? Robson. I'm sorry. Colin and Leslie Robson found these buried in the ground in their backyard. So they find these heads and suddenly all these things start happening, right? It's like they unearthed a particular curse that was actually being held in those heads. And the curse could have remained completely inactive as long as the heads could have remained buried in the ground. But because they have been unearthed, that is what has caused this feeling of an evil presence. It is what's caused the paranormal type of activity that was going on in the homes that held the heads. And I also believe that it was what was causing them to see this half-man, half-beast creature that would accompany this evil type of presence as well. Now, I also mentioned the article in the Hexham Current because I find it interesting that in 1904, they were having issues with some type of creature slaughtering the sheep, right? So in this same area, there was also something very strange going on there. And I kind of like, in my mind, obviously connected that with this half-man, half-beast creature. So it makes me wonder, did someone bury these heads to kind of stop the madness or stop a particular curse that maybe someone had unearthed at that time in 1904? I guess we'll never really know. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the Hexham heads. Do you believe that these heads are cursed and that these boys actually unearthed a curse and therefore activated its powers? Or do you think that it was just a strange coincidence and that these stories are completely made up? Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button and share this video with all of your friends out there. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would just love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you've subscribed, you can then click that notifications bell so that you can be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.